Hey everyone, I'm Rod and Todd, a professional YouTuber who makes professional videos, and it's Tuesday, which means it's time for another Transformers review. So here we go. This is WFC-E5 Hoist. He was released in the deluxe size class as part of Wave 1 of the War for Cybertron Earthrise toy line. As always, we'll start with the vehicle mode. Hoist transforms into a dark green, well, I don't know what shade of green to describe this as. Not really dark green, but like it's not light green either. And bright orange tow truck with some really nice caution striping on the side. I actually really like this vehicle mode. It's got this really nice kind of off-road truck sort of look to it. I think that's really cool. Big Autobot symbol on the hood. Some really nice paint on the front bumper, transparent headlights and windshield, which is nice. I still don't know though why it's like these wheels have the full like hubcap, and this one it's clear the peg's right there. I don't know why they did that, but it could just be like design choice they had to do for design's sake or something, because they had to sacrifice the aesthetic. Whatever. You get what I mean. Problem a lot of people have with this figure is you can clearly see a bunch of the robot mode junk underneath, which, because we try my best to like, there, now it's perfect. Like, honestly, I don't really mind stuff like that, just so long as it doesn't, like, interrupt the functionality of the vehicle mode itself, which, rolls pretty well, honestly. I mean, so Hoist is known for turning into a tow truck, and he does have, well, something resembling a tow assembly. You just kind of open these up to give it space, and then just kind of flips out, and then just kind of folds down there, and there you go. Something kind of cute is that this has a little tiny wheel underneath, so it can still roll the rest of the truck mode. See, in G1 like stuff, Hoist didn't actually have a hook. He had this big like little flat thing you would prop like one of the cars up on, and you could tow Autobots into wherever. However, one big complaint that I have with this is that you cannot actually tow an Autobot car with this. So what was the point of including it? Like, seriously, you can't tow anyone with this. I was able to make a little hack, which, it's like I would show it off, but I kind of forgot to do that. But basically, you take the shield from Earthrise Optimus, which, and you hook it up to this, and then it has a little peg on the top, and then that peg can fit pretty nicely into a slot on the bottom of Earthrise Cliffjumper, and you can tow them pretty well, but, whatever. And speaking of hooking stuff up to the tow assembly, what's that? It's a universal connector, which means it's time to bring out our buddy Sound Barrier to show off that gimmick. Boom, there you go. I don't know what the point of this is, honestly. Like, I don't know why they had a universal connector on the back of the tow hook. And, like, you can hook it up to, like, Ironworks or something, which it looks fine when you do that, but, like, there's really no point to doing it just with Sound Barrier or something. It does have a couple holes on the side you can store his gun. However, in all honesty, this looks a bit stupid. Whatever. So anyway, yeah, that's Hoist's vehicle mode. I think it looks pretty good. However, I don't understand why they made it to where it can't actually tow anything. So yeah. Of course, this being a deluxe class figure, that means we can finally start showing off the Earthrise boxes. So I'll be doing that along with a comparison to the Siege box, just so you can, kind of see the differences between the two. And so, yeah, that being said, let's get to the box. So here we go. Here's a box for Earthrise. I just kind of pulled out the Siege box. It was easiest to get out from my closet. So here's Impactor's box for comparison. As you can see, it is pretty much the same basic design as the Siege box, which, uniformity, that's nice. However, it has different graphics on it. Earthrise boxes are a lot more blue and green, whereas Siege boxes are a lot more black and red. And yeah, it does kind of follow the same basic layout of Siege box. You know, that's that count as a comparison. But anyway, I won't be doing that for every Earthrise video, obviously. I just kind of wanted to show you how the design was kind of the same with different graphics. So, you know, standard stuff that you'd see on like a normal Siege box. Earthrise logo there, Transformers logo there, says Hoist. And it does continue the rank insignia stuff from Siege. That's right there. However, it's not mirrored on the inside of the box. Can't see it very well, but on the inside it has a piece of a star map. That's the gimmick of Earthrise. Every figure, including the Battle Masters and Micromasters, come with a tiny little piece of a star map, which you're supposed to cut out. And if you get every single figure in Earthrise, you can assemble those pieces and form a map of the galaxy, which is cool. However, going into Earthrise, I knew full well I wasn't going to get every single figure, so I never cut any of them out. So it's still in there, and it has this little like hidden path that you can use this red piece of plastic inside the code. After like 2 or 3 figures, I started just not even taking those out of the little plastic sleeve they came in. So yeah. As you can tell, based on the fact that it's loose in the box, Hoist is one of the first Earthrise figures I got. Turning it over to the side, oh yeah, we have a new mural to go over. Yep, Siege has its own mural there, and Earthrise will get a new one. So let's go over it. So there's the Decepticon ship, the Nemesis, and the Autobot ship, the Ark, right there. It looks like the Ark is being chased by the Nemesis. You got Optimus Prime, Wheeljack, Hound, who doesn't actually have a toy in Earthrise, Trailbreaker, who's using the design of his Thrilling 30 toy because the Earthrise design hadn't been finalized yet. RC, Sideswipe, it didn't get an Earth mode toy until Kingdom. And it looks like, I want to say that's Bumblebee right there. He didn't even get a toy in Earthrise at all. I mean, he did get a toy that's a retool of an Earthrise figure, but, you know, save that for Netflix Wave 2. Got the Ark, looks like it's crash landing, falling towards Earth. Shockwave, experimenting on something, which, you know, he didn't get a toy in Earthrise. Double Dealer, sitting right there, kind of like looking at like a computer or something. The Quintesson Judge. Megatron, and it looks like there's Unicron in the corner. So, there's your little breakdown of the Earthrise mural. I won't be doing that again. So, yeah. On the back, you got some 3D renders of the figure. You can see Hoist in his robot mode, in his tow truck mode, transforms from that to that in 20 steps. The little tow hook assembly, which has a little graphic there detailing how you can hook it up with a universal connector. It's the Autobot symbol there, I guess. I don't know. And then the package art. My favorite part of the Siege boxes continued over here. Well, here, it looks like he's on Earth. You can see some like trees in the background and stuff. I guess he's like standing. He has his gun out. And yeah, when I first saw this, I honestly thought this was like a thing of chemicals or something he was pouring in there because Hoist is like a scientist. But it looks more like he's using his gun to light a grenade or something, which is kind of cool. And then top of the box, Autobot symbol, but it's kind of like digital something or other. Transformers logo, and on the top, there's Galvatron, who didn't get a toy until Kingdom. And then there's all the junk on the bottom. Looks like there's some Autobots, Decepticons, like corpses there. Okay, interesting. Anyway, yeah, there you go. There's the Hoist box. So, with that out of the way, let's move on to the robot mode. So, here's Hoist in his robot mode. Let me tell you, he is a thick boy. He's quite big and chunky for, you know, a deluxe class figure. It's actually really tall compared to like a lot of other deluxe guys, but I'm not going to bring out another one to compare. Just take my word for it. In terms of articulation, he has ball joint at the head to move his head, you know, left, right, and up and down. Universal joint at the shoulder, so you can move his arm out and all the way around. Keep in mind the giant things here go with it. Bend at the shoulder, so you can move that, and swivel at the shoulder, wrist swivel, waist swivel, universal joint at the hips. You can move his leg out, forward, and back. Swivel at the thigh, double jointed knee bend. Most of that's just for the transformation, but it's cool. And swivel at the ankle. So pretty standard articulation for a deluxe figure this size. In terms of accessories, he comes with one. He has his gun, and this is something Earthrise started doing. Is how in Siege a lot of figures came with a bunch of guns that had a bunch of tiny little intricate pieces. They could all combine to form a bigger gun. Yeah, you're not getting any of that in Earthrise, which thank goodness. And as I mentioned earlier, they stopped doing goofy, overly long weapon names. So for the sake of this, for all intents and purposes, this is just a gun. Yes, I don't have to write down all those awful weapons names off the wiki anymore. So, you just kind of fit this over his hand, and this is something really cool I like about this, is that it doesn't just kind of sit on top of his hand, it goes over his hand to make it look like his hand transformed into the gun. Because in the cartoon, Hoist had just a gun hand, so if you want to make it cartoon accurate, you can leave this on there. Of course, a complaint I do have is just he has the peg sticking out right there. But I mean, come on, unless you're looking at it from the side or from this angle, really, what else? What are you gonna do about it, huh? So, yeah, you can fit the little blast effect pieces in there if you want. I'm not going to show that off because we're done with Siege and I don't really need to worry about the blast effect parts anymore. And this is kind of this weird thing Hoist does, is he has the battle damage. Remember how in Siege a lot of figures had a little scratch paint job to make it look like they've been through a lot of battles and stuff. For whatever reason, Hoist has some little scratched paint right here, and kind of hard to see, but there's a little bit on his forearms. Which he's the only figure in Earthrise that does that, so I don't know what the point of that is, but there you go. Just, don't expect any more battle damaged paint going forward. I guess, view from the side and stuff. He has these little fin thingies sticking out of his back, which I don't really know what purpose they serve, but, it's kind of an iconic feature of Hoist, so there you go. And he has a little laser cannon thing, which is a carryover from Trailbreaker, a lot of blah, blah, blah. Something I like about Earthrise is that, see, there's a lot of figures that I typically like to call lazy retool figures. So it's for every Bumblebee figure, you're going to get a Cliffjumper figure. For every Trailbreaker figure, you're going to get a Hoist figure. For every Inferno, you're going to get a Grapple. They're always just retooled from each other because that's how it always is. I don't know, some other examples, you're always going to get a Red Alert from Sideswipe. Or, for every Prowl, there's a blue streak and a smoke screen. For every Starscream, there's a million Seekers. You get the picture. And something I kind of like about Earthrise, it kind of breaks conventions, is that they take a reverse approach to this. So that's basically what I'm saying is Hoist, Cliffjumper, and Grapple, who are normally the second lazy retools of the existing figures, were the ones released first, and Trailbreaker, Bumblebee, and Inferno were all released later. And they look completely different from the base mold, because most lazy retools, especially with Bumblebee and Cliffjumper, they just take the existing base mold, add a new head, and call it a day. However, with Cliffjumper and Bumblebee, they look completely different, if you know what I'm talking about. I mean, that is if you have Earthrise, Cliffjumper, and the Netflix Bumblebee. Screw the Worlds Collide Bumblebee. That is the very definition of lazy retool. I'm going off on a tangent here, but you get the picture. Hoist was released first, Trailbreaker was released later in Wave 3, and we'll review him in due time. So, yeah, I guess that's my review of Hoist. Um, overall, I'd say tow truck mode, pretty solid, but just wish he could, actually tow stuff. Robot mode, I really like how big and chunky it is. The gun's pretty nice, how it kind of fits over his hand like that. I mean, he's definitely not my favorite figure in Earthrise, but he's pretty good. So, yeah, that being said, I guess I hope you enjoyed this video, and, yeah, tune in next week as we review Cliff Jumper. So, this has been Ron Todd signing off.